All right. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Yes. I want to thank everybody for coming out. I want to thank NWK360 and the Urban League team and the city of Newark. The folks here, and we have the councilman here. Councilman, help you with hello, everyone. That's really great. So, we've been doing planning in this neighborhood for a while. Many of you came to the Fairmont Heights Neighborhood Association. Before that started, we started planning in the neighborhood. And you might remember we had this little tiny fight with somebody called PSC&G about a switching station. And the reason, and we had standing because we had a plan, because this neighborhood said this is what we wanted. So it gave us standing in that fight. So don't take for granted this planning process. The city is here to find out what you want in your neighborhood. And you see changes happening, you need to put your little line in the sand about this is what you want. This is your chance. So everybody, let's go for it. And I think when we did the first planning process, one of the planners said, there's no green space in Fairmont except the cemetery. And I was like, whoa, you think about it. And I hadn't thought about it until they said that. So planning is important. The environment that children live in, the environment that we're living in this community is important, and you have a voice. So glad you all came out great showing. Get your voice in. I see a lot of familiar people here, and those I don't know I want to meet. But so thank you all. So Councilman, you gonna say something?
I guess I have to now. I'm gonna tell you, I'm so used to being in the back, just sitting there and just being quiet. Now they call me out. I remember 10 years ago, the last master plan at meetings around the city. Probably 10 years before that. I think I'm kind of old now thinking about it. But what's important, I think today is this is your opportunity. Okay, this is your opportunity to tell the city, us, what you want in your community. We should not tell you what you want in your community. It should be what you telling us what you want. And so this is your opportunity to do that. Take advantage of it. Some of you all may not be from this area, but from other areas. There are meetings, and Chris will talk about the meetings in the other areas too. But make sure that you voice your opinion, voice your feelings, voice what you feel is needed in your community. Take the opportunity. Learn the process too, because what's important is not just sitting up here and saying yes or no to something, but knowing what the process is to get it across the finish line and to be what you want your community to be at the end of the day. So that's all I really want to say is just, and enjoy yourself too, This is a fun process. It's going to be fun. Enjoy it, learn from it, and tell us what you want. Thank you.
Thank you. So I just want to say, before we bring Chris up, come on up, Chris. We got funding from another source after this meeting, to continue our discussions at a deeper level in smaller group settings, like at the Tech House, other Urban League facilities, because we want to make you as close to subject matter experts on this whole process as we possibly could. And Chris, in his kindness, he's loaned himself and the resources of the city to coordinate with us to have those smaller meetings and to bring his team to have a deeper discussion. So I just wanted to share that before I bring Chris up. So come on up, Chris.
You don't mind if I stay here?
No, that's fine.
Advance the slides.
Okay.
Thank you so much. My name is Chris Watson. I serve as the city planner. And I think Darian and Vivian and Larry has already introduced why we're here tonight. There's no need for me to continue on that accord. You guys did an excellent job. But just building on what they said, as a municipality of New Jersey, we're actually statutorily responsible for producing a master plan every 10 years, which leads the land use plan for how our city will grow. But before we go forward into tonight's discussion, I want to say thanks to the Urban League for hosting this meeting, to the KIPP Academy for us having it here, and acknowledge the Victoria Foundation. These community engagement sessions are really part and parcel of their generosity. So thanks to them. And Larry, thanks for spending some time with us tonight. I know you have a busy schedule, but you carved out some time to be here. So why are we here? So we're here tonight to talk about Newark 360, how we really and truly shape our city together, right? And when we think about Newark 360, we're thinking about how we can really think like holistically about our city for the next 10 years and how we grow. Again, how we grow physically and what should go where. Like Vivian said, there are no green spaces in Fairmont, which is a true statement, although cemeteries are green. But where do we put places that are parks, are more public spaces where, we can all hang out and gather? Where do we want to see more density in our neighborhoods to accommodate population growth? What about public transportation? How do we ensure it's robust enough for those of us who depend on that particular service? When we think about health in our neighborhood, what are we doing about streetscaping and trees? How do we make sure that our sidewalks are better equipped? What do we do with flooding, when it rains and floods these neighborhoods? How do we fortify ourselves in that process? So this planning process is for us to think bigger about our city. But we're having these community meetings so that we can bring that bigger conversation more nuanced to where you live. Because, as planners, we have to see the whole, but we have to see the whole as an amalgamation of its parts. So tonight's conversation is about this part of Newark, right? What can we get right in this part of Newark for the next 10 years? So we have an aggressive timeline that we are following, and by no means this is an indication of the work that has been done so far. We've been at this for the past 2.5 years, I want to say. We've been looking at over 116 plans that we've unearthed, synthesizing those plans, seeing how other communities have been planning, and really doing our due diligence work. But in terms of what we need to do statutorily, we need to give this master plan and its land use element to the state by September. So we're now in this public discourse where we would really like to hear from the public, really and truly, how should this plan reflect your voices? And so we're here in Newark, right? And we're talking about a city that is the third oldest municipality in the nation. So it's gone through a cadence of, from its indigenous sovereignty to how we begin industrializing as a city and actually help this nation industrialize. What happens when we went through the Great Migration, population changes, and how Newark evolved into this rich mosaic of a city of communities. And now really and truly, we are a resurgent city, right? And more so moving from this renaissance to really an inflection moment where we are seeing cranes in the air, we're seeing the city grow, we're seeing people more stabilized, we're seeing crime rates reduce, and we're seeing children flourishing. And Newark is growing. The last census, we grew by 13%, but we're certainly not growing in an equitable and a balanced way. We've seen the white population decrease, and we've also seen the black population decrease here in Newark over the last 10 years. And as we're growing, we're becoming more and more multiracial. More New Yorkers are speaking English as a second language at home and speaking other languages other than English in their homes. And then we're becoming more and more dense. We're seeing more densification downtown and people moving more to downtown Newark. And that's really truly because downtown Newark was really the commercial center of the city. And a lot of those buildings are no longer being used for that purpose, but they're being adapted for residential housing. The Haynes building, for instance, a department store that now has Whole Foods and residential buildings on top. The Haynes building, soon we'll have 125 Washington Street. These buildings were all commercial buildings, now people are living there. So we're seeing this densification in the downtown, but also more and more homes being retrofitted and more homes building in our neighborhoods also. And part and parcel of this conversation tonight is how we talk about Newark being resilient in the age of climate change, right? When we look at the 50-year and 100-year flood maps, it shows that Newark is vulnerable to flooding in many parts of Newark that you would think would flood. And less of homeowners in these neighborhoods are without flood insurance. So it's like, how do we try to protect our city in the next, not 10 years, but think about Newark in the next 100 years. How do we prevent that loop from happening? Because that is all on the water. So again, what is this master plan? Is really truly a community-driven process where we talk amongst each other about how Newark grows in the next 10 years. And it's really and truly how we create a blueprint for that growth, and how within that blueprint, we set these larger goals and how we can get there, right? And prioritizing those goals towards how we not how we articulate, how we achieve our articulation of the city. And at the end of this entire process, what comes out of it is a land use map. So all of these little colors represent what can be done on a particular parcel in Newark. So you think about where you live and that parcel that your property is on. There's a color that is under that property. And that color really says what can be there. So when we talk tonight about an increase in density, or where more roads can go, or where more green spaces can go, what we're really saying is, how do we change the color of this map to represent that? So all of our goals and the priorities of getting to that goal really saying change these colors. If you, for instance, want, if you see like in the R1 zone where that's light yellow, if you're saying, you know what, I would like to see more two-family homes on my block because more and more people are living in basement apartments and I don't want that. Then you're saying move that color from that light yellow to a little darker yellow. So that's what this process eventually leads to, right? A land use map for the future. And we don't just do this out of the context. Larry brought it up. The last time we did this was 10 years ago, and we wrote this master plan, Our City, Our Future. And a great question came up from the last engagement we had about, has this plan really worked? Well, it did to an extent, right? A lot of the changes we have seen in Newark is a result of this planning process. Certainly we haven't achieved all of the goals, but we've achieved the majority of the goals set forth in this master plan. And more so, things change, right? The pandemic changed, and we had to pivot to something else. 4 years ago, there was an echoing in the news that, there's lead in Newark water. Well, today, we're the only American city that changed every lead pipe that is, on the ground. So we pivot as things change and emergencies emerge. But certainly this planning process is not being done like in a tabula rasa. It's being built from something that was there before. And we also try to listen to the mayor and his leadership. In his first administration, he really articulated a blueprint to Newark's future around these pillars of an empowered city, a safe city, an educated city, an equitable city, and a collaborative city, right? So if we want to achieve a city around these pillars, first and foremost, to be collaborative, we have to have this conversation, right? And to be actually empowered, we have to have this conversation because you're actually empowering yourself tonight by saying what should be Newark's future and how that should be codified. And also we try to take pay keen attention to neighborhood planning. And Vivian, sorry, your plan, we didn't get a chance to change the slide. Right? But we definitely pay attention to neighborhood planning and the work that neighborhoods have done. So let's pretend as though the Lincoln Park plan is actually the Fairmont redevelopment plan here. We didn't switch on that photograph, right? So we definitely want to listen to what neighborhoods have been saying and make sure that as we write a Newark master plan, it is actually representative also of the community planning that is happening around this city. Because thanks to the richness of our community development cooperations, they've been carrying a heavy load in terms of advancing a lot of goals and aspirations, not only of the neighborhoods, but of this administration. And we actually want to build on what we know as Newarkers, that we are really a city that is a prosperous city. And we want to ensure that we, in the planning process, we continue to be prosperous. We want to acknowledge that we are a city of neighborhoods, that we are a strong city, that it's rich in culture. And we want to build on that culture. And we want to ensure that we build a city that is representative of the families that are here and the families that would like to come here. Because really and truly, these are Newark's assets. And we want to ensure in the planning process, not only are we protecting these assets, but we're growing these assets. And one of the other touch points where we get into the community is digitally. So we do have a website, and I urge and encourage everyone to go on that website, NWK360.org. You can sign up to get updates on the work we're doing. You can share your voices there. We have a map where you can actually map your city by showing us places where you like, where you don't like. You can take a survey, and you'll sign up to get more information. And this is just a reflection of some of the things we've been hearing from the community around these particular planning elements. So, what's the technical part of this? So, as an urban planner, we see ourselves as interpreters, right? So tonight, the conversation is going to be about where we go. Where we go is really and truly saying, how do we get from point A to point B? Do we take a car? Do we ride our bicycles? Do we walk there? Are we flying there? So when you speak in that particular language, as a planner, I'm hearing transportation. So these planning elements is really and truly how we are interpreting this conversation to write this particular document. When someone says, I don't like how something looks, I don't like how that home looks, we're talking about urban design, right? When someone says that was a beautiful church, I don't know why they broke it down to build this stuff, then you're talking to me about historic preservation and cultural assets. So these 8 planning elements are really and truly how, as planners, we use our technical acumen to interpret the conversations that we'll hear from you tonight. And I think I went through this before, about the purpose of the plan, is really and truly for us to codify how we would like to see our city grow and write that land use to ensure that that's exactly what can happen. And so tonight, before I introduce my colleague, Andrea, I'm just going to quickly talk about the cadence of the meeting going forward. We have 4 stations where we really want to talk about topics of like where we live, like where in Newark do you live? Do you live in a private home? Are you a renter? Do you live in an apartment building? What are the conditions of those homes? What are the design of the home? How willing are you to accommodate more neighbors, and where should those neighbors go? So where we live is really and truly to talk about these type of conditions and what type of scaling you would like to see in your neighborhood in the future, right? And then we'll also be talking about where you shop and play, right? Are you jumping in your car and going to Millward to Whole Foods, or are you walking to the corner bodega that is selling fresh food? Where are you dropping off your dry cleaning? Is there cobbler in your neighborhood? Is there enough spaces for commercial activity, right? Is there a park? Where are you playing in Fairmont? Like where are you playing in this neighborhood? So we'll be talking about where these spaces exist or where they don't exist, and what is the possibility for their existence through this planning process. And then we're going to be talking about places about where we gather, right? So again, it's built on, after tonight, where are you going? Are you going to the local smoke shop? Are you going to a bar? Are you going to listen to a jazz band? Where are we gathering, right? Is it a park? Is it the parking lot of this school? How can we increase the places where we really build a sense of community, right? Because where we gather is where we really build community. And then we're going to be talking about, where we go and how we get there. Again, are we driving there? Are we walking there? Are there protected bike lanes for people that want to ride their bicycles? Should we increase the amount of parking spots or decrease the amount of parking spots because of congestion? So really and truly about where we're going, how we're getting there, how walkable our city is, and how we can get into walkability. But I'm going to come off my soapbox now and introduce, before I introduce Andrea, do you guys have any questions? No? You know you want to say something.
I have questions about everything.
There we go. There we go. There we go. Question.
Keep going. Because I got questions about everything.
But you should at least ask one.
I think our biggest question or our biggest concern in Fairmont Heights is the fact that we are in the process of changing over our little pocket park that we created. The day before Sandy hit, it was called Kaboom Park. We are in the works of,
Hello, Kaboom.
Yeah, we work with them to create that park. Since then, it has been brutalized and vandalized and all of those items. And we are actually in the works with the Urban League and LIS and the Victoria Foundation and the City of Newark to actually have a park there.
So a place where you gather.
Yeah. So this will be the one and only space other than the graveyard that will be considered a green space in Fairmont Heights. However, the bigger issue is the children have nowhere to go. There are no, this used to be the Boys and Girls Club for like 50 years. And when that closed down 30 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever, that was the last place that these kids had as an actual recreation center. They still do not have anything in its place.
Yeah. So you see, Victoria, so this, what Victoria is bringing up tonight is exactly the type of feedback we want to hear, because really and truly, like there's a map over there, and it's going to show you where we are, and you could actually say, you know what, there are opportunities for this type of green space elsewhere, you know. When we get this type of echoing, right, our job is to write a goal, like a goal for the West Ward in the Fairmont neighborhood should be an increase of green spaces, and challenge ourselves to find opportunities for that at particular scales. So Kaboom Park is what? 2 lots combined? It's right to the corner, right? Right, it's 2 lots combined. So that's going to be a park of a particular scale. Well, if we set the goal of saying, you know, should 4 lots that belong to the city come on board, and we know that parks became this resounding need in this neighborhood, and now housing or something else, then we know the charge is how do we now build an additional public space at that particular scale, right? So it's good feedback, and this is the type of feedback we would love to hear tonight, because if we don't hear that, then we don't know what we're planning for, right? Yes, sir. Oh, good, sorry. No, can I go to the back first? Yeah, this time first.
Well, thank you for everything that you shared with us. I have 2 questions. One, I want to talk about the tale of 2 cities. So you have the residents in the city, and Newark has a lot of history, as you explained. But some of the residents don't have the money to keep their properties up. So is the city getting any type of community block development grant to help residents, but residents at all levels? Because sometimes you have to meet certain federal economic guidelines which prevent other residents, because they're just above the threshold, not being able to do some of these major improvements when, you know, right now we're dealing with supply chain issues, increased cost of labor, so they're not able to do it. And when they do it, they're penalized because they have to pull permits if they want to do it right. And that permit, that new kitchen that I put in that may cost $10,000 will be with me for the rest of my life as far as taxes. It will never go away. It'll just keep increasing. So I'm de-incentivized from either pulling permits or doing the work.
What's your name, sir?
Glenn.
So,
You want to call you out?
so Glenn brought up a good point.
Don't meet
But
me
Glenn
outside.
brought up a point that is not in my office. So let me tell you what the plan can do and what the plan can't do. The master planning can't do what Glenn just articulated. That's more how we have policies to support that. What the plan can say is where Glenn lives, instead of it being a 1-family home, we can turn it into a 3-family home, right? But certainly, I understand the concern, but it's definitely not something that the plan can solve.
And the second part was dealing with the historical aspect.
Yeah.
You have a lot of historical homes in the area, but a lot of residents don't even know that they have a historical home that can tap into historical preservation money.
Yeah.
So what is being done to inform those residents before they either A, sell it,
Yeah.
because they could be sitting on a gold mine,
Yeah.
or 2, that they can use to actually redevelop it, bring it back to its original condition, and then also possibly use it in the new Lion Gates movie theater when they start producing movies in Newark and make
Well,
it
sir,
into.
Nicholas, that question is coming on the hour when the Historical Landmarks Preservation Board is actually meeting right now. Right? To give permits to do that type of work. But what we're doing, Glenn, in my office, because it comes under the auspices of my office also, is that we do have an aggressive public campaign to let people know that they're buying homes within these districts and what the value of that being in that district is, and also what the burden can be. Because when you need to do repairs that are visible from the street, the ordinance is written in such a way that it has to be a like-for-like replacement. So someone could live in a beautiful home, let's say on Goldsmith in the Weekday section, and decide, you know what, it's cheaper for me to clad this home with siding than to repaint it. Well, you're in a historic neighborhood, it wouldn't allow for that, right? So we really try to educate people as how to tap into those resources, not to clad their home with siding, but to get the resources to paint it. So we're doing that aggressively, and we have applied to both federal and state grants to help homeowners that are within that band. All right. Two questions, and then I have to go.
I got a fundamental one.
Yes.
Yeah, fundamentals.
Can I come to this
I
again?
live on this block. Who should I call for garbage cans? Because I can grab all.
You don't call anyone for garbage cans. You belong to Freedom
No,
License.
no, not for me.
Oh.
I'm just saying, basic, I mean, I sit up there and watch, people walk up and down the street. It's like everybody is so conscious, they unconscious. Everything thrown on the floor. Everything on the floor.
Yeah, so go to Freedom License, sir, or the DPW, and there's a list district right here.
I think he's
On
referring,
Freedom
you're
License?
referring to like public garbage.
Yeah.
It's like I've never seen no place. Like when I first moved on the spot, the boys club was here. That's when the district started to take it. And the first thing I said, because there's probably only 5 good houses on the block. So this block has came back tremendously in the last couple of years. So I said to myself, I never seen a place. I don't see any garbage cans.
All right, Jay. I'll solve it. We can solve for that.
And then you look, I watch the kids go up and down the street, coming to school. It's not, they become conditioned as though everything is
Yeah.
not a garbage can.
All right, we can solve for that.
And the other thing, piggybacking off of this Victoria thing, or somebody said something like we gotta get some kid programs in Newark. There's no, I mean, I'm 57 years old, I'm 58 years old. When I was growing up, I mean, I didn't grow up here in Newark, but I could go 50 yards that way to a store. There's a program, I had an outlet. You understand? These kids that don't have an outlet, you say, oh, what's the matter with these DKs? What's the matter with these kids? They don't have nothing to do.
So you
And
should
they
be,
call down the boys, go down.
so Jay, you should be at the table as to where we gather and make sure that you articulate where we should gather and what that gathering should be.
Here's the place right here.
Yeah, Ms. Kennedy.
Yeah, one of the things that really bothers me, and I'm happy to see that you had the historic preservation on your charts. When, I don't know who demolished it, but the Peck Estate used to exist on Sussex Avenue between 5th and 6th Street. And it was the family of the Peck piano people, and they totally just demolished the estate and put those prefab terrible houses in its place.
Yeah.
And all that history is gone.
Yeah, so that's why we, again, you know, and I'm glad you're acknowledging that. It goes back to the public conversation where people can actually tell us where we think that we still have opportunity to preserve Newark's history, and that might end up being like we create more districts, right? I personally feel where I live should be historic. I live next door to John Lindsay's home, and I've been living there for 5 years, and I've seen the house deteriorate. So why is John Lindsay important? He was the founder of Vailsburg, right? And Vailsburg is the last municipality in the United States to be annexed in 1905 by Newark. So the founding father of Vailsburg owns right next to me, right? So preservation is personal, it's also public. So when we have these issues, these type of conversations to say, hey, we should pay more attention to this type of history in Newark. But I did one more question, and then I have to bring Andrea on in the time. Sir. Oh, you're good. Okay. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Andrew McLean, who's going to explain the cadence of the table exercise. Thank you so much.
Hi everyone, my name is Andrea. I am on the team helping out with community engagement for these meetings. I'm a worker, I'm a business owner here, entrepreneur, so I'm just here to be of service. So, there are 4 tables like Chris explained. We have 4 awesome facilitators at each table. At the first table where we live is Julio, we have Pam, he's going to be helping you guys out with the exercises that are at the table. At the second table, we have Divad, who's going to be helping you out at where we shop and play. Ezekiel's at the 3rd table, and Melissa is at the 4th table. So, there's sticky notes at each table, and when you answer your questions, you're going to write the sticky notes and place them on the boards. For the maps, there are sticky notes, and there are also dots where you can place important places in the community. And then the first table, there's the housing poll, where you're going to vote on what's important for you for the mayor's housing goals. So we're gonna do, we have about 40 minutes. So we'll do like 15 minutes at each table. I think I counted about 30 people here, so there should be about 8 people at each table. Make sure you spread out. And then I'm gonna time you all. When the timer is up, then you're gonna have to switch to another table because we wanna make sure that everyone gets we want to make sure that everyone gets a chance to, have their input at each place. So we're going to get started, and yeah, I'll turn the music back on. You guys can keep your tables.
If you have not been to a table, be sure to visit that table because we'll be wrapping it up soon.
So yeah, we're gonna wrap up. We're gonna start at table 1, talk about some things that came up, talk about what your experience was, and talk about your big takeaways from your table. And then we are going to move on down the line. The facilitators will share some important things that came up for you all and what you want to take away from this.
This works?
It's just.
Oh, just for the camera. Okay. If I may have your attention, where we live, the #1 subject area, some of the topics that were raised, what are some of the big issues with housing in your neighborhood? Crime, speed cars, no parking, slumlords not taking care of their properties, abandoned housing, not enough residents own a piece or of the share of the community they live in. Dumping, garbage, rodent control, more home ownership. Where in your neighborhood are opportunities for increased housing? The majority of people said any city-owned vacant lot. The club need to go. Is that a particular place in this area? Okay. Let me see, there's code to permit alternative housing types. A code to permit alternative housing types on vacant lots. That's where in your neighborhood are opportunities for increased housing. That was not an easy topic because a lot of people were confused of where in the Fairmont Heights area can we build additional housing. And so a lot of people turned to vacant lots. That is with respect to also the mayor's housing goals, vote for your priorities. The team here, round 1, different folks there was 3 that voted for create or preserve 6,600 affordable homes. 6 voted for support 1,500 new and 200 existing low and moderate income homeowners. 2 voted in round 1, encourage affordable units to be built on all vacant lots. No one in this particular round supported 10,000 vulnerable or unsheltered households annually. And then 5 voted add 3,000 new housing units across all 5 wards. Round 2, there were 7 votes for create and preserve. None for support 1,500 new and 200 existing low and moderate income homeowners. 5 for encourage affordable housing units. 1 for support 10,000 vulnerable unsheltered households annually. And 5 votes for add 3,000 new housing units across all 5 wards. Round 3, 2 for create, 7 for support 1,500 new and existing, 1 for encourage affordable units, 3 for support 10,000 vulnerable, and 2 for add 3,000 new housing units. Round 4, 2 create or preserve 6,600, 3 voted for support 1,500 new and 200 existing, 7 voted for encourage affordable housing units, 6 voted for support 10,000 vulnerable unsheltered households annually, and 2 voted add 3,000 new housing units across all 5 wards. Where we live.
Thank you. Okay, so up next, we have Devon, who's going to share.
Thank you. And I want to say thank you to everyone who came by our table to share their ideas in regards to this community. So we start off with, what is something in your neighborhood that you are proud of? This school, and which is important because it is a staple. But now we have a couple of votes for the Tech House, Urban League, KIP, 1 for My Home, and Great Neighbors. Neighbors make the difference. Last is the street planners. Sorry, you were going to say? Somebody say something?
The people, the great neighbors, I was asking, where do you live?
Where do I live? No, this is what's on here. It says my home and great neighbors. Right? But I was just sharing that this is, when we're talking about what's something that you're proud of, a home ownership and the individuals that live in your community. How can your commercial corridors, South Orange Avenue, be strengthened? So we have Black Wall Street. We have moved the club, put a daycare center there, right? We talking about, we talking about Walmart, more restaurants, right? We have school uniform stores for charter schools, enforcing health and building codes and ordinances. Established galleries. Oh, no, that's not a G, that's an E. Eateries, yes. Councilperson mini sites for community use. And we talk about councilperson mini sites, is that like a little city hall? Something like that? All right, because I know they got one in the South Ward. Things need to change up. More businesses that offer outside dining to be the, what is that? Oh, to deter the loiterers. We have encouraged more businesses, black owned. Again, more black owned businesses. Wellness and therapy centers. And when we get to how can we leverage the former PAP site, Fairmont Commons, and there was a question, right? Where's Fairmont Commons? Hello? Westside High School and other assets to improve the neighborhood and create opportunity. Affordable housing at that site. No containers there. Bring a Walmart or a Target. Rodent control and extermination for Fairmont. Right? And that may be an issue because as they're tearing buildings down, things may start coming up. And you may not want them coming up. Right? More security within the community. Rec center across the street from Westside High School. Ensure neighborhood residents are informed and input is requested. We have Walmart again, community center, real affordable housing for the working poor. Again, right? The shipping containers obviously is causing a problem. And let me see right here, get rid of sex offender housing. Masquerading as homeless shelter on South 12th, the back of Westside High School. This is what we have. These are your voices, these are your feelings, these are your ideas, because this is your neighborhood. This is your community. And as we look at the asset map, Darren, if you wouldn't mind holding it for me, please, sir. Thank you. We have color-coded stickers to put on here, but this asset map is an illustration of needed neighborhood, cultural, and other businesses within the area. The key is, as we're looking at the West Ward, the idea is, what can spaces be utilized as, or what can they turn into? Again, this is your community, your neighborhood. It's your voice and your choice for what it then becomes. It's not a case of people telling you what it is, but for you to tell them what it should be. And that is where we shop and play. Thank you.
All right.
Hey guys, so I'm just going to be talking about where we gather. For the map, I kind of did it a little differently. Somebody can close real quick. So what we did is, for the green, we did it for trees and parks. For the yellow, we kind of did it for recreational centers. And basically for the red, like places that had situations, issues with safety, and etc. And for the blue, we did for flooding. So anything when it comes to identify flooding areas. So I think it was really identified that trees, parks are definitely needed more in this area. That was like was mentioned earlier. And then just to summarize what we had a conversation about, some places to make improvements in our community. We talked about having a center, right? Yeah, it's for the recording. Dumping and also baseball parks, churches. There's nowhere for the kids to go. Like somebody mentioned that earlier when we was checking in. Garbage, rats. So those are some issues that definitely need to be addressed in our communities. When it comes to now opportunities for more trees, we mentioned Littleton Ave, empty spaces. I think there's a space on 11th Ave on 11th Street. Somebody identified that. 13th Ave Gardens, green space on 10th Street and 12th Ave. And more or less adapt a lot of vacant areas to gardens. So those are kind of some stuff that were mentioned as well. And for the very last one was flooding. There wasn't that much mention about flooding, but it was more or less, some people said it wasn't any that much issues, but also Westside High School was identified, and older houses were also mentioned, and somebody mentioned their backyard. The church St. Paul's on 215th on 9th Street. So, so these are some stuff that were mentioned, for regarding where we gather. That was it.
Thank you. Okay. Hello, everyone. This thing don't work. I probably don't really, okay. Okay. My name is Melissa, and here we talked about where we go. So where we go is the primary subject, and it is important to focus is it important for us to focus as Newark residents how we maneuver in spaces, right? So one of the first things we did was I only used one color sticker, but right here on the map, I had our participants point out places in Newark that are congested. It's important for us to be able to identify how we can maneuver in the city of Newark in regards to driving, walking, just being able to navigate with our use of transportation. So here are some important points that we identified here in Newark, and I just want to address the first question, which is how can we improve streets in your neighborhoods? One of the important things that really stood out was street lights, right? We live in a populated area where crime is on the rise, and there's a lot of drug activities on number of streets or number blocks, and we want to increase the amount of street lights or traffic lights that exist at bus stops where people are using these public transportations to get around. We want more police activities. We want more programs in our neighborhoods for kids. This used to be a Boys and Girls Club years ago. Somebody said it before. We don't have those programs or those outlets for our students who, when they come out of school and they want to enjoy just being a kid, they don't have those places to go to because it just don't exist, or it isn't many of it. It decreased. I don't really know of any after-school programs that exist anymore. I used to go to the Boys and Girls Club in Newark on Avon Ave, and I know that it costs now, so a lot of parents can't afford it, and that's another conversation that we need to have outside of how we navigate in the city of Newark. Being able to afford certain things that exist within our city isn't really for us if it's here, but we can't afford it. We want more, wider sidewalks. Somebody wrote that. I know y'all meant streets, because when I'm driving and I'm on the street with the buses and these cars is double parked, I'm like, how can I gotta go. And then there's an issue with the scooters. People are just, they everywhere, so it's causing an issue. I'm sorry, because I drive those scooters too, but I make sure I park it. So we want more trees, more greener spaces. We want cleaner neighborhoods. We want trash cans at every corner so that when people are standing at bus stops that they're able to, throw their trash away. Because y'all like to eat at the bus. Y'all know y'all like to eat at that bus stop. I used to do it all the time. Let's see, streets. The infrastructure of the streets in Newark. I done got my tire fixed twice and I only had my car for a year. I'm tired of it. I'm about to go back to New Jersey Transit. I invest more money in my car than I did on a bus. I'm telling you, that's not normal for me. I mean, you can't even count the potholes in Newark no more. That's how many of them it is. No shade to Newark, but we really need to get it fixed. And guess what, y'all? We just got some politicians elected. We got to get up and tell these people, if y'all want us to vote for you, you need to get our streets fixed. And don't wait every 4 years when it's time for you to run. We need our streets fixed now because we tired of it now. Let's move on to the next session. What will help you get around Newark and your neighborhood better? We need a bus for seniors only, because we can't have seniors and kids on a bus together, if you have a kid or a niece or a nephew, y'all, they like to curse on a bus. We're not really teaching them manners, or I don't know what people are teaching these kids at home, but when they on a bus with these seniors, they don't have no respect. I'm being honest. So we need a separate transportation for seniors and students who are traveling from home to school. Somebody said community buses, brighter lightnings for the streets, cleaner streets. I can say that 1,000 times. We could create a jitney, which is like a short bus. I don't know if anybody has ever seen like them Charlie buses in Philadelphia or in Atlantic City. That was something that we was thinking of. And then what can we do to improve transit access, and how can we improve the bus stops that you use most often? Wi-Fi. Like, it was times when my phone was off and I'm like, Dean, I ain't got no Wi-Fi just to use my phone. I'm sorry, y'all. I used to move on Wi-Fi a lot. So yeah, we need Wi-Fi at the bus stops. We need more buses to ride. Somebody said more 31 buses. I don't know. I guess, that's a bus that a lot of people take often. Separate cars and driveways for a commute, to provide more buses or extend bus routes. And the bus coverings, I talked about that too. Like, sometimes we just have bus stops, but we need like more bus coverings for when it rains or snow. People want to feel protected. They don't want to be, out in the cold. Something that protects them from that weather, or or just so they can feel secure. And then let me wrap this up. Keep it short and sweet. One of the things I want to say, this is the last thing, we talk a lot about gentrification, but I think it's important for us as Newark residents to like really identify how we control the narrative in our neighborhoods. So this is like really important. Like we're pointing out all the things that we need in our neighborhoods, but it don't just stop here. We have community meetings downtown Newark with certain council members. And we need to go down there and talk about everything that we just talked about here. That's just really important. Like, we could talk about it, but we really need to force everything that we're saying here to them so that they know that what's important to us is important to them. So, yeah. And that's it. Yeah.
Thank you. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. If you haven't done the future headline exercise on your way out, please make sure you do that.
That's the cards.
Yes, the cards that you got at the table, please make sure you write on those on your way out. Thank you, everyone, so much for coming. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at NWK360. Make sure you go on the website, NWK360.org. God bless.